Very good morning to all of you. Welcome back, my friends. I hope you guys are doing good. So, in the last session, we started with cost sheet and we finished cost sheet. So, now let's start with the next part of the syllabus wherein we'll be discussing methods of costing. So, in this session, we'll be discussing process costing. In general, I used to take 3 sessions on process costing. But due to time constraint, only one session is allocated to process costing. So I request you guys to please refer my previous batch sessions because this session will be more or less like a revision session. So I'll try to cover each and every point, not in detail, but yes, I'll try to cover each and every point, the conceptual part and one or two practical questions I'll be discussing for a better understanding. So, very good morning, Mr. Sushil. Very good morning, Mr. Mohammed. I think you have joined over Zoom also. So, very good morning, everyone. So, now, without wasting time, let's start with process costing. Now, when talking about this method of costing, this process costing is used by those manufacturing concern wherein the raw material, the inputs, or we can say the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. I repeat again, this method of costing is used by those companies wherein their raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. So how this mechanism works, let's say I made an input. It is introduced in process first. I made input, that is my raw material is introduced in process first. Now once this process first gets over, the output of process first is transferred to the next process, that is process second. Further, let's say there is one more process involved. So once this process second gets over on this inputs or raw material, the output of process second is transferred to process third. And after process third, the product is ready. So the output we will be getting from process third is my finished goods. So I repeat again, the input, that is the raw material, is introduced in process first. Now once the process first gets over, the output of process first is transferred to process second. So the input for process second will be what? The output of process first. Now after process second gets over, the output of process second is transferred to the next process, that is process third. Further, once the process third gets over, my final product is laid ready and we call it as finished goods or finished stock. So this is how this mechanism works. So this process costing is used by the companies wherein the raw material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. Now, since each and every process is unique and separate, since each and every process is unique and separate, so therefore a separate process account is to be prepared for every process to record the cost or expenditure that are pertaining to that process. For better understanding, I'm writing this part. Since each process is unique and separate, therefore a separate process account is to be prepared for every process. Record the cost pertaining to a process. So in short, इस चैप्टर में हम लोगों को क्या करना है, प्रोसेस अकाउंट प्रिपेयर करना है. In process account, we will record all the costs that are pertaining to that process. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. In the meanwhile, I request you guys to please copy this part. Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Mr. Sayanto Sen. Now the question is how to prepare process account. Again, it's very simple. How to prepare process account? It's very simple. So what we will do is, let's say we are preparing process first account. The first column will be the units and amount. The second column will be again the units and amount. So first we'll write the inputs or raw material that is introduced into a particular process. Thereafter, we will record all the conversion costs, that is labor and overheads. By whatever name called, we'll record it in process. So to labor, to all the overheads, all the direct expenses, I'll be discussing separately this concept of normal loss. So if there is any normal loss, we'll record it separately in the process. If there is any abnormal loss also, we'll record separately in the process. If there is abnormal gain, it will be shown in debit side of process account. Now, after all this exercise, this is the input. Let's say this much is the normal loss, this much is the abnormal loss. Thereafter, the final figure what we'll be getting is the output that is transferred to the next process. So we'll write by process second. That is output transferred to next process. So this is how the basic process account is to be prepared. That is the inputs, that is the raw material that is introduced into a particular process. Thereafter, we'll record the labor cost, the overheads, the direct expenses. Further, if any normal loss is there, we'll record abnormal loss, and the output that is transferred to the next process. Now, once this process gets over, we'll prepare process second account. In the similar way, where the same units, amount, units, and amount. So the output of process second will process first will be the output in the output of process first will be the input of process second. So we'll write to process first units, further additional conversion cost, that is labor, direct expenses, and overheads. We will record separately. If there is any abnormal gain, we'll write abnormal gain. If there is any normal loss, we will write normal loss. If there is any abnormal loss, we'll write abnormal loss. Now the output of process second, let's say there are only two processes involved. So the output of process second will be transferred to finished stock account or finished goods. So by finished stock. Assuming there are only two processes involved in this company, so the output of process second will be transferred to finished stock. So the account is very simple. On the debit side, we'll first write the inputs. Thereafter, all the conversion cost. If there is any normal loss or abnormal loss, we'll write it on the credit side. If any abnormal gain is there, we'll write it on the debit side. And thereafter, the output of process first is transferred to process second. And further, while preparing process second, we'll write the inputs that is received from process first. So this is how the basic process account is to be prepared. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Those who want to copy this part can please copy. Very good morning, Miss Komal. I'll be discussing this part, Mr. Krishnan, don't worry. So I'm sharing the screen for your reference. So when talking about process costing, it's a method of costing used in industries wherein the material has to pass through two or more than two processes before being converted into final product. A separate process account for each process is opened and all the expenditures or costs pertaining to a process is charged to that process account. So this is how this mechanism works. That is input, that is raw material is transferred to process first, is introduced in process first actually. Now the output of process first is transferred to process second, and further the output of process second is transferred to finished stock account. This is the basic pro forma for how to prepare process account, wherein process first account to material, labor, inputs, whatever it is. So this is how the process first and process second account is to be prepared. Now, before starting with the remaining part of the chapter, let me give you a brief about what all we'll be discussing in this chapter. So meaning of process costing is already over. Now we'll be discussing normal loss, and abnormal gain. Thereafter, we'll discuss a full-fledged question. Thereafter, we'll be discussing what is work in progress and how to value work in progress and what's the concept of equivalent production. Thereafter, if the time permits, we'll be discussing the last part, that is inter-process profit related one question. So let's start with the concept of normal loss. So when talking about normal loss, these two terms, what I have, these three, that is normal loss, abnormal and abnormal gain, I'm discussing these parts separately. So when talking about normal loss, it is inherent in nature. We can't avoid it. ये वो loss है जिसे हम avoid कर ही नहीं सकते. It's that because of the nature of product or production process, this loss is bound to happen. We can't avoid it. So that is normal loss. It can be estimated well in advance as per the past management experiences. Now, let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. So let's say I'm a manufacturer of health juice, let's say mangoes. Now this mangoes drink is prepared using mangoes, and I procure these mangoes directly from Ratnagiri farm. Now during the course of transportation of mangoes from Ratnagiri till my factory, I repeat again, during the course of transportation from Ratnagiri till my factory, two times क्या होता है, loading unloading होता है, and during the course of loading unloading, certain percentage mangoes get spoiled or damaged or whatever it is. So ये हम लोग avoid ही नहीं कर सकते. So that is normal loss. Again, another example. Let's say I'm into business of processing of crude oil. Now, while processing crude oil, certain percentage of oil is evaporated. This is the nature of the product or production process, that during the course of processing, certain percentage evaporate hoga hi. I can't avoid it. So that is an example of normal loss. So what is normal loss? Very simple, guys. It's inherent in nature. We can't avoid it. Management can predict well in advance. Now, when talking about the treatment of normal loss, whatever the normal loss is, it is to be absorbed by good units. I repeat again, whatever the normal loss is, it will be absorbed by good units. Any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the total cost to get the process cost per unit or the total process cost. I repeat again, here it is written also that the cost of normal loss is absorbed by good units if any scrap value is realized, will be adjusted against the cost, or in simple terms credited in process account. Let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. Let's say I made an inputs of 10,000 units. The cost of raw material is 1 lakh. Let's say my labor cost is 60,000. And let's say my overhead cost is 20,000. So the cost of process is 1,80,000. Now management has predicted well in advance that whatever the inputs what we are making, or whatever the raw material that is introduced into a particular process, 10% is the normal loss. So management has predicted well in advance that of the inputs what we are, whatever the inputs is, of that inputs 10% is the normal loss that is bound to happen. So my final output will be how much? 9,000. मैनेजमेंट ने पहले से ही प्रेडिक्ट कर रखा है, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द पास्ट डेटा एंड एक्सपीरियंसेस, दैट जो भी इनपुट्स करेंगे उसका 10% तो नॉर्मल लॉस होगा ही. If it is, let's say, crude oil, then 10% will be evaporated. If it is processing of mangoes into mango juice, again 10% will be damaged, or we can say spoiled, whatever it is. So this loss is bound to happen. So ultimately we'll be getting an output of 9,000 units only. So now this cost of 1,80,000, this cost of 1,80,000 will be absorbed by these 9,000 units rather than these 10,000 units. ये जो cost है 1,80,000 की, which was supposed to be absorbed by 10,000 units, will now be absorbed by 9,000 units. So herein my cost per unit will be how much? 1,80,000 divided by 9,000. So that will be 20 rupees per unit. So herein we can say that वो 1,80,000 की जो कॉस्ट है विच वॉज सपोज टू बी अब्सॉर्ब बाय 10,000 यूनिट्स विल नाउ बी अब्सॉर्ब बाय 9,000 यूनिट्स. सो हेयर इन ये जो 1,000 यूनिट्स का लॉस है it will be absorbed by remaining good units, that is 9,000. This is what the concept of normal loss is. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Those who want to copy this explanation can please copy. Manish sir, are you there? The board is visible. Everything is okay now? Okay. Okay. Because sir, Manish sir, few students are writing that the board is not visible. Everything is perfect, na? I request Mr. Sushil and Shreya to use laptops rather than using mobile. Further, you can increase, put the pixel size to 720. The board will be visible. Don't worry, guys. So, guys, now let's discuss this concept of normal loss with the help of an example. That is example number 2, normal loss. I request you guys to please take the screenshot. So example 2, normal loss. Here in the material is 1,000 units at the rate 100, that is 1 lakh. The labor cost is 1,50,000. The other expenses are 50,000. Scrap value realized is 12,000 and the normal loss is 10% of the inputs. You are required to prepare the process account and calculate the cost of good units transferred. I repeat again this question. I request you guys to please take the screenshot or else you can download the PPT from the portal. It is available over portal. So material 1,000 units at the rate 100, that is 1 lakh. Labor cost is 1,50,000. Other expenses are 50,000. Scrap value realized is 12,000. Normal loss is 10%. You are required to prepare process account. Okay, Shreya, now I hope it is visible. Perfect. So let's start with this question. The similar question is, I think, there in the study material also. Further, you can download the notes from the portal. So let's prepare a process account. How will record the normal loss in process account? So the material that is input is 1 lakh. Total 1000 units were introduced. So 1000 and 1 lakh. To labor cost, that is 1,50,000. To other expenses that are 50,000. Now, the normal loss is 10% of the inputs. So by normal loss, is 10% of the input, that is 100 units, and the scrap value realized on sale of normal loss is 12,000. By process second, assuming there is one more process, so by process second, 900. Now the total cost is 2 lakh. So 2 lakh is the total cost. Now, this 2 lakh was supposed to be absorbed by 1000 units. Now it will be absorbed by 900 units. But it's not 2 lakh actually. 2 lakh minus we have realized certain amount on sale of this normal loss. So any scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from the total cost. Very important, guys. Any scrap value realized on sale of normal loss will be deducted from process cost. So now our net cost is how much? 1,88,000. See, 2 lakh rupees हमने खर्च किया, again 12,000 we are getting back in the form of scrap value. So the net cost is how much? 2 lakh minus 12,000, that is 1,88,000 divided by 900. So my cost per unit will be how much? 208.88. So this is how this normal loss account will be dealt in process account. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Don't forget to deduct the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss. So the final amount, those who want to copy this explanation can please copy. Sorry guys, it's a calculation mistake. It's 3 lakhs, sorry. A small calculation mistake from my end. It's 1 lakh, 2 lakh and 3 lakh. Thank you, Sushil. So 1 lakh plus 150 plus 50, it is 3 lakh. 3 lakh minus 12,000, it will be 2,88,000 divided by 900. So this 320 is the cost of good units. This is the per unit cost. So 2,88,000 divided by 300. Two lakh 88,000 divided by 900, sorry. It comes to 320. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Any doubts, Mr. Unni Krishnan, Ms. Shreya Gupta, Sushil, Komal? So this is all what about normal loss. Now let's proceed further without wasting time, since only one session is allotted to process costing. So without wasting time, now let's proceed further with the next part, wherein we'll be discussing the concept of abnormal loss. So now the next concept, the normal loss is over. Now the next concept is abnormal loss. So when talking about abnormal loss, the loss in excess of predetermined loss, or we can say the loss in excess of normal loss, is my abnormal loss. I repeat again, what is abnormal loss? The loss in excess of normal loss is my abnormal loss. So let's say I made an inputs of 10,000 units. Now management predicted well in advance that there will be a normal loss of, let's say, 10% of input, that is 1,000 units. So my expected output was how much? 9,000 units. I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. I repeat again, the inputs is 10,000 units. The 10% is my normal loss. So my expected output was 9,000 units. However, when the actual figures were out, my actual output was 8,500 units only. I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. However, my actual output was 8,500 units. So the extra loss of 500 units is what? The extra loss of 500 units is what? My abnormal loss. The extra loss of 500 units is what? My abnormal loss. I repeat again, I made an input of 10,000 units. I was expecting an output of 9,000 units after deducting 1,000 units as the normal loss. So I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. However, my actual output was only 8,500 units. So balance 500 units kahan gaye? It's what? My abnormal loss. So this is what the concept of abnormal loss. So what is abnormal loss? The loss in excess of normal loss is abnormal loss. It cannot be predicted in advance. ये हम लोग predict नहीं कर सकते. It can be due to, bad plant design, carelessness of worker, theft, or loss by fire. It can be anything. It can be, so it's, in short, we can say this abnormal loss is due to abnormal reasons. If, I mean, it can be avoided if we take suitable measures and precautions. So abnormal loss, the loss in excess of normal loss. Second, it cannot be predicted. It occurs through bad carelessness of worker. It can be avoided if suitable measures are taken care of. So let me discuss this concept again with the help of a practical example. As I discussed that I'm into manufacturer, I'm into manufacture of a health drink named Mangoes. Now, I procure, my raw material is mango, and I procure mangoes directly from farm. Now, during the course of transit from Ratnagiri to my factory, let's say one of my vehicle met an accident, and let's say 35 tons of mangoes were damaged because of this. So this 35, the loss of 35 tons is what? My abnormal loss. अब हम लोग चाहते तो ये अवॉइड कर सकते थे if the driver was careful, but yes, if due to carelessness of my driver, I mean, I got this loss of mangoes, so this is what my abnormal loss. When talking about the treatment of abnormal loss, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to value of good units. I repeat again, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to value of good units. Further, it is shown in credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. Or Mr. Unikrishnan, I request you to please refer my previous sessions. So when talking about the treatment of abnormal loss, very simple, guys, it's equal to the value of good units. Further, it is shown in the credit side of process account and thereafter transferred to the debit side of costing P&L account. Let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. The same question is there in the study material also. So for your reference, I'm discussing example number 3. The same is there in the study material also. Those who want to take the screenshot can please take the screenshot. So example number 3, abnormal loss and abnormal gain. So a product passes through two process first and process second. Material issued to process first is 5,000 units at the rate 8, that is 40,000. The wages paid are 30,000. The manufacturing overheads are 27,000. The normal loss is anticipated as 5% of the input. 4,550 units of output were produced and transferred out of process first. The scrap value realized is rupees 2 per unit. You are required to prepare process first account and normal loss and abnormal loss account. So I'll be discussing the second part separately. So let's discuss this example number 3. I request you guys to please take the screenshot, or else you can download the material from the portal. Further, you can refer study material. I mean, the question is the same. So let's start with example number 3. So how to deal with abnormal loss in process account? We are discussing a question. So material is 5,000 units at the rate 8. That is 40,000. Wages is 30,000 and manufacturing overhead are 27,000. Further, the normal loss is anticipated as 5% of input. Further, the scrap value is given, that is the scrap value, scrap has a realizable value of rupees 2 per unit. So 250 into 2, that is 500. Now guys, I made an input of 5,000 units. My normal loss is 250 units. So I was expecting an output of 4750 units. This is what my expected output. However, my actual output is how much? The actual output is given, that is 4,500 units of output were produced and transferred from process first. So my actual output is 4,550. So my expected output was 4750. However, my actual output is 4,550. So balance 200 units is what? My abnormal loss. So by abnormal loss, it is 200 units, and by process second, it is 4550. Now the question is how to value this 200 units and 4550 units. So very simple guys, as I told you, the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. Now when talking about how to calculate good units, we have already discussed in the previous value of good units, we have already discussed in the previous question. That is very simple, the cost of the process, that is 97,000, minus the scrap value that is realized on sale of normal loss, whole divided by my expected output only, not the actual output, because the product cost will not be inflated because of abnormal loss. Abnormal loss kabhi kabhi hota hai, not every time. So the product cost will remain unchanged if there is abnormal loss or not, or abnormal gain or not. The product will always be constant. Yes, the product cost is inflated because of normal loss, but yes, very important guys, product cost inflate nahi hoga if there is an abnormal loss. So the same, the process cost minus the scrap value realized on sale of normal loss divided by my expected output, that is inputs minus normal loss. I repeat again, abnormal loss से product cost inflate नहीं होगा. Product cost inflate सिर्फ normal loss से होगा, abnormal loss से नहीं होगा. So divided by my expected output, that is 5,000 minus 250, that is 4750. So this will be 92. So ultimately what we are doing is this total cost minus 500 is distributed among these two. So the cost of good units is 20.316 and this is how the cost will be distributed. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Further, when talking about how to prepare abnormal loss account, very simple. So to process account, that is 200 is the abnormal loss and 4063. Now these 200 units are also our loss. So we will assume that just like normal loss, these 200 units are also sold in the market. So it's an assumption. So just like normal loss, these 200 units are also sold in the market at the same scrap value. That is rupees 2. So on these 200 units, we are getting 400 back. So the net amount to be transferred to costing P&L will be 3663. So it will be shown on the debit side of costing P&L. So Mr. Unnikrishnan, I hope this is clear. So the loss will be posted on the debit side of costing P&L. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Giving you 2 minutes time to copy this explanation. Now we are done with abnormal loss. Now let's start with abnormal gain. Okay, Preeti Khetan, how come 400? It is 200 into 2. See, 200 is the abnormal loss units, and we will assume that just like normal loss, these units are also sold in the market at the rate rupees 2. That is the scrap value that is given for normal loss. I hope it is clear, Preeti. Yes, Preeti. Sushil, again the same question, sir. How come 400? So very simple, Preeti and Sushil. Just like normal loss, see the scrap value that is given is rupees 2 per unit. So जैसे हमने normal loss market में sell किया, वैसे ही हम लोग abnormal loss के units भी market में sell करेंगे at the same price. So the price is given, that is rupees 2. I hope it is clear, Sushil. So now let's start with abnormal gain. So what is abnormal gain? Very simple, guys. When the actual production exceeds the expected production. When the actual production exceeds the expected production. I repeat again, when the actual production exceeds the expected production, we call it as abnormal gain. It can be due to wrong estimation also or efficiency of workers also. So let's say I made an input of 10,000 units. My normal loss is, let's say, 10% of inputs, 1,000 units. So my expected output is 9,000. However, let's say my actual output is 9,300 units. I was expecting an output of 9,000 units. However, my actual output was 9,300 units. So these 300 units is what? My abnormal gain. When talking about the treatment of abnormal gain, it's the same. The value of abnormal gain will be equal to value of good units. I repeat again, when talking about the valuation of abnormal gain, it will be equal to the value of good units. जैसे abnormal loss में product cost inflate नहीं होता है, वैसे ही product cost reduce भी नहीं होता है in case of abnormal gain. So very simple, guys. When talking about the valuation of abnormal gain, it will be equal to the value of good units. It will be shown in debit side of process account and thereafter transferred to costing P&L account. So let's discuss this concept with the help of a same question. The same question, but the second part also answer if the output is 8,000, 4,850. I repeat again, the same question, example number 3, with the second part also answer if the output is 4,850. So let's start with this question. Welcome, Sushil. Thank you so much. So let's prepare process account. So material is 5,000 and 40,000. $27,000. The scrap value realized is 2, so it will be 9,000. It's 500. Now my output is that is transferred to the next process is 4850. Now herein I was expecting an output of 4750. That is 5000 minus 250. I was expecting an output of 4750. However, my actual output was 4850. That is 100 units much 100 units more than what I expected. So this 100 unit is what my abnormal gain. Now the question is how to value these 2 points. Again, the same concept. The value of abnormal gain will be equal to value of good units. So herein, the value will be the same 40 plus 30 plus 27. That is 97,000 minus 500 divided by my expected output, that is 5,000 minus 250. So it was, I think, 20 point something. $20.316. So this will be 2032. And this will be 98,532. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. I've discussed how to deal with abnormal gain in process account. Now the point is how to prepare abnormal gain and abnormal gain account. We have to prepare normal loss account also. So my normal loss was and my abnormal gain was now very important guys, this point is a bit tricky. So do make a note of it that when talking about abnormal gain, what is abnormal gain? We can say it is a saving in normal loss. So herein I was expecting a loss of 250 units. However, my actual loss was how much? 5,000 minus 4,850, that is 150 units. I repeat again, I was expecting a normal loss of 250 units. However, when the final results were out, there is an abnormal gain of 100 units. It means what? The total loss is of how many units? Only 150 units. So very important guys, see these 250 units are not actually sold in the market. The units that are sold in the market is only 150 units because 250 units is the normal loss. However, there is abnormal gain of 100 units. So we can say in other language that what is abnormal gain? Abnormal gain is saving in normal loss. What is abnormal gain? It's a saving in normal loss. However, the product cost will remain unchanged if there is an abnormal gain. So very simple, guys. What is abnormal gain? We can say it's a saving in normal loss. So the actual units that are sold in the market will be how much? Only 150 units. So by bank, it will be only 150 units that are sold in the market. Balance is what? My abnormal gain of 100 units. So 150 into 2, that is 300, and since it's a saving in normal loss, so 100 into 2, that is 200. So the ultimate profit to our company is how much? The ultimate profit to our company that is to be transferred to costing P&L will be how much? 1832. So this is how abnormal gain is to be prepared. Abnormal gain account is to be prepared. So we can say what is abnormal gain? We can say it's the saving in normal loss. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. Actual production is 4850 units. We were predicting a normal loss of 250 units. However, there is an abnormal gain of 100 units. So that's why the net normal loss is only 150 units. Mr. Narendra Kochar. Normal loss is always calculated on inputs, my dear. I have made an input of 5,000. I was expecting a normal loss of 5%, that is 250. So my expected output was 4750 only. However, when the actual figures were out, my actual output was 4850. It means what? There is a saving in normal loss of 100 units, what we call as abnormal gain. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. Preeti, yes, if examiner do ask you to prepare, then you have to prepare. Hopefully, Narendra, your query is resolved. I'm not expecting an okay. Just want that, sir, if everything is clear, then clear. My dear, I want every one of you guys to be thorough with what I'm teaching right now. Further, I request you guys to please refer my previous sessions. So I hope your query is resolved, Narendra. Normal loss is calculated on input. So now we are done with the concept of normal loss, and abnormal gain. I hope, Narendra, your query is resolved, my dear. So if examiner asks you guys to prepare abnormal loss, abnormal gain account, then yes, you have to prepare. Further, if they are asking you to prepare costing P&L account, then you can make the calculation known to prepare it in fair. So Sushil Kumar Barik, very simple, my dear. When talking about normal loss, it is 250 units and the value is 500. Further, when talking about the actual units that are sold in the market, it's only 150 units because there is an abnormal gain of 100 units. It means what? The net units that are sold in the market is only 150 units. I hope your query is resolved, Sushil. Great, Mr. Narendra. Yes, Sushil, any other doubts? So now, without wasting time, let's discuss one full-fledged question. Thereafter, we'll take a break and then we'll discuss one question on valuation of work in progress. So let's start with a question. The same question is there in the study material also. So let's start with this question. RST Limited processes product Z through two distinct processes, process first and process second. On completion, it is transferred to finished stock. From the following information for the year 2021, prepare process first account, process second account, and finished stock account. The details of the raw material transfer to the next process, normal loss, direct wages, direct expenses, manufacturing overhead, scrap value is given for the normal loss. 6,000 of units of finished goods were sold. 1 second. Sorry. 6,000 units of finished goods were sold at a profit of 15% and 15% on cost. Assume that there was no opening or closing stock of work in progress. So let's start with process second, process first, process second, and finished stock account. We'll surely try to, Preeti. Thank you so much, Sushil. 1 second, guys. So let's start with example number 4. The same question is there in the study material also. So let's start. So let's start with raw material, that is 7,500 units. And the cost is 60. So this will be 4,50,000. Further, the direct wages are 135,750. 1,35,750. Further, it's given direct expenses, 60% of direct wages. It comes to 81,450. Further, the manufacturing overheads are 20% of direct wages. When talking about normal loss, it is given, when talking about the normal loss, it is given 5% of the inputs. It comes to 375. And the scrap value realized is 12.5. So into 12.5. So this will be 4687.5. 468. So better to take round figure, that is 4688. Now the output that is transferred to the next process is given, that is 7,050. So 7,500 minus 375. My expected output was 7,500 minus 375, that is 7,125. However, my actual output is only 7,050. So balance 75 units is what? My abnormal loss. In short, we have to calculate these values. So the value of abnormal loss will be equal to the value of good units. So let's calculate cost per unit of good units. So this will be 682,402. So this is how this process account is to be prepared. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. So now let's start with the next part, better prepare process second account. So now so the output of process second will be the output of process first. The output of process first will be the input of process second. Further, the additional costs are given. That is direct wages is given, that is 129,250. Further, direct expenses are given and manufacturing overheads. So when talking about direct expenses, it is 65% of direct wages. It comes to 84013. And when talking about manufacturing overhead, it is 15% of direct wages. So it comes to 19387. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. Now herein the normal loss is given, that is 10% of the inputs. So by normal loss, that is 10% of the inputs, so 705. And the scrap value is also given. And the scrap value is also given, that is 37.5. Now, my output is given, that is to be transferred to finished stock account. And it is given as 6525. Now, here in 7050 is my input, minus 705 is my normal loss. So I am expecting an output of only 6345. However, my actual output is 6525. I was expecting an output of only 6345. However, my actual output is 6525. So this balance 180 units is what? My abnormal gain. I repeat again, I was expecting an output of 7050 minus 705, that is 6345. However, my actual output is 6525. It means the extra 180 units what we are getting is what? Our abnormal gain. So again, as I said, the value of abnormal gain will be equal to the value of good units. So So this is how the value of good units will be calculated. That is the total cost of process second. That is 915052 minus 26438 divided by 7050 minus 705. So we'll be getting 140.0496. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Let me check if there are anything. So 140.0496 into 180 units. So the value of abnormal gain will be 25,209. So the total will be so this is the way this value will be calculated. So this is how this full-fledged question will be solved, wherein we have prepared process first account, process second account. Last, we will prepare the finished stock account also. So total units received from process is 6525 and the value is 913823. Out of this 6525, it is given in the question that 6,000 units were sold. 6,000 units were sold. So by cost of sales, 6,000 into 140.0496. And balance will be the closing balance. That is 525 units. So this is how the full-fledged question on process costing, that is the basic process costing, will be solved. If you guys have any doubts, giving you 2 minutes time to post your queries. Thereafter, we'll take a break and then we'll start with the concept of work in progress. So when talking about the finished stock, see 6525 is the units that are received from process second. Now out of the 6525 units, 6000 units were transferred to cost of sales. Reason being this 6000 units are sold. So 6000 units and 840,298 is the value. That is 6000 into 140.0496. Now the balance 525 units are still in stock. So buy balance CD 525 into 140.0496. For income statement, I just will be, you can refer my previous session, Preeti. It's very simple. So herein on the debit side, you'll write cost of sales, buy sales. Further, you have to consider this the balancing figure of abnormal loss and abnormal gain account to get the final profit. So now let's take a break of 15 minutes. Thereafter, we'll start with the concept of work in progress. I mean, the time is less, but anyways, whatever possible, I'll try to cover in detail. So, Edmund sir, are you there? Manish sir? Welcome back, guys. So now let's move towards the last part of the chapter. I mean, since the timing is the constraint, so let me give you a brief about the concept of equivalent production. Thereafter, you guys can post whatever the queries you have relating to the points what I have discussed. And those who have already done, I mean, those who are already done with the syllabus can post all your queries relating to concept of equivalent productions also. So let's start with the concept of equivalent production. One second. So now, when talking about work in progress, what is work in progress? When talking about work in progress, it says units introduced into the process but remain unfinished by year end are known as work in progress. I repeat again, we have introduced some inputs into a particular process, but out of the inputs made, certain units are transferred to the next process, but there are certain units that remain unfinished by the year end. We call it as work in progress. Now, the point is how to value the units that are still in the process. So, herein the concept of equivalent production comes into the picture. So, let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. I request you guys to please take the screenshot of this question, that is concept of equivalent production, wherein the inputs are given, that is 10,000 units, the material cost is given, that is 49,000 units, the labor cost is given, that is 19,200 units, overheads are given, that is 28,800 units, units transferred to the next process are 9,000 units, and units that are still in process is 1,000 units. And further, the percentage of completion is given, that is 80%. In case of material and labor and overheads, it is 60%. You are required to prepare the statement of equivalent production and the value of units transferred and the closing work in progress. So as and when we will see any sort of work in progress related information, we have to prepare the statement of equivalent production. So herein, so let's start with this question. I request you guys to please take the screenshot. So if we prepare process account, if we prepare process account, then the input says 10,000 units and the value is 49,000. Further, the labor is 19,200. Overheads are 28,800. Further, there is no normal loss related information is given. So we'll assume that there is no normal loss. further the units that are transferred to the next process is 9,000. So by process, let's say process second is 9,000 units. And by closing work in progress, it is given that is 1,000 units. Now the question is how to value these two items, that is the value of units transferred and value of closing work in progress. So herein we have to prepare the statement of equivalent production. And then we have to prepare the statement of equivalent production. So the column is particulars. Since the percentage of completion of labor and overheads is same, so that's why no need to prepare it separately. When talking about the percentage, it means the percentage of completion. So when talking about the valuation part, see, total 9,000 units were transferred. See, if these units are transferred, it means what, they are 100% processed. If these 9,000 units are transferred, it means they are 100% processed. So 9,000 are the equivalent number of units, and again 100%, so 9,000 are the equivalent number of units. When talking about closing work in progress, see, total there are 1,000 units. When talking about the percentage of completion, material is 80% complete. So 80% material is complete. So we can say the equivalent number of units will be 800. What it means? It means that the 1,000 units that are 80% complete, it means that the value of 1,000 units that are 80% complete will be equal to 800 units that are 100% complete. In simple terms, what I want to say is that the value of 1,000 units that are 80% complete will be equal to the value of 800 units that are 100% complete. So this is the concept. So instead of taking 1,000 units for the material, we'll be taking only 800 units. Similarly, in case of labor and overheads, the percentage of completion is 60%. So it means what? The percentage of completed work is what? 1,000 units that are 60% complete will be equal to 600 units that are 100% complete. So total number of equivalent number of units that are 100% complete in respect of material will be 9,800. And in case of labor and overhead, it will be 9,600. I'm sorry, but it's like we have limited time. Plus, I have to take the query part also. So that's why. So I repeat again, just for a briefing, what equivalent number of units means that the value of 1,000 units that are 80% complete will be equal to the value of 800 units that are 100% complete. So we can say the equivalent number of units in case of material will be 9,800. It means what? ये जो 49,000 rupees cost है, it is for 9,800 units, not for 10,000 units. I repeat again, this cost of material that is 49,000 is for 9,800 units, not for 10,000 units. And similarly, when talking about labor and overhead, this cost of 19,200 and 28,800 is for 9,600 units, not 10,000 units. ये जो cost है material की 49,000, it is for only 9,800 units. Because certain units are completed and certain units are still in process. Further, when talking about these two costs, this is the cost of 9,600 units, not 10,000 units. So now we have calculated the equivalent number of units. So now we'll calculate the cost per unit. That is, in case of material, the cost will be 49,000 divided by 9,800. In case of labor, the cost will be 19,200 divided by 9,600. And in case of overheads, my cost will be 28,800 divided by 9,600. So this will be 2, this will be 3, and this will be, I think, 5. So the total cost of units that are 100% complete will be how much? 10 rupees. So this is 10 rupees is what? The cost of units that are 100% complete. Because these 9,800 units are 100% complete, this 9,600 units are 100% complete. However, the 9,000 in this total column, the 9,000 units are 100% complete and the 1,000 units are partially complete. That is 80% in case of material and 60% in case of labor. So 49,000 divided by 9,800. So my calculation is correct now. So now we have got the cost of rupees 10, that is for 100% completed units. So when talking about the value of units transferred, total 9,000 units are transferred. So 9,000 into 10, the total value will be 90,000. But when talking about the closing work in progress, we have to make the calculation separately. That is, in case of material, only 800 units, that is equivalent number of units are processed. So 800 into 5. See, alternatively, we can take, let me complete this part first. See, these 800 units are 100% processed in case of material. So 100% completed units cost in case of material is 5. So 800 into 5. In case of labor, it is 600 into 2. And in case of overheads, it is 600 into 3. So 1,200, 4,000 and 1,800. So this will be 7,000. So this is how this total cost will be distributed among two. This is more like a revision session. So if you have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Alternatively, we can calculate the value as follows also. That is, see, when talking about material cost, that is rupees 5 is for 100% processed unit and material is processed up to 80%. So 5 into 80%, that is 4. In case of labor, the cost is 2, that is for 100% completed units. So for 60% completed units, it will be 1.2. And in case of overheads, the cost per unit is 3 and it is 60% processed, so it comes to 1.8. So the total cost is 7. So if we want to calculate, so this is the cost of what? The closing work in progress. So 7 into 1,000 units, that is 7,000 is the total cost of closing work in progress. Both the approaches are correct, but I do recommend this approach. It is easy, and since the ready data is available, so no need to do extra exercise to calculate the cost per unit of closing work in progress. If you guys have any doubts in this part, any conceptual queries, you guys can please post your queries. I know I went bit fast, but again, I mean, the time it's like the timing is the constant. So if you guys have any doubts, whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries. Those who want to copy this part can please copy. I request you guys to please refer my previous session, classes. You'll get better understanding of the concept because I have discussed each and every point in detail, guys. Now, guys, in this case, no opening work in progress is given. It's a very basic question wherein no details are given as regards normal loss or abnormal gain. Now, or opening work in progress. So now let's start with some advanced concepts. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can first please post your queries. So now, what if in case if opening work in progress is given? See, let's say the opening work in progress is given 2000 units. Inputs that are made during the year is, let's say, 10,000 units. Now, units transferred is given, let's say, 8,000 units. And closing work in progress is, let's say, 4,000. Now the question is how to value units transferred and closing work in progress. So very simple, guys. ICAI has suggested two approaches. The second is weighted average. The first one is the FIFO and the second one is the weighted average method. This part is already covered in material costing. However, for your reference, when talking about if we are using FIFO method, out of these 8,000 units that are transferred, we'll first consider from opening work in progress, that is 2,000 units, and remaining will be from inputs that are made during the year, that is 6,000. So first in, first out. It means first the opening work in progress will be transferred to the next process and thereafter the inputs will be processed and it will be transferred to the next process. This part is important from valuation perspective because for the 8,000 units transferred, we'll be taking the value of opening work in progress plus the work plus the remaining work completed during the completed opening work in progress plus the remaining work completed and plus inputs that are 100% processed. It means what? The work that is completed. So we'll be taking the value of opening work in progress plus the additional cost to process these work in progress into 100% plus the inputs that are 100% processed, so that aggregate value will be taken for the 8,000 units that are transferred. And when talking about closing work in progress, it will be assumed that it will be from the inputs that are made during the year. When talking about the weighted average part, we'll be taking the weighted average rate, that is the weighted average rate of opening work in progress, plus the costs that are incurred during the year. So the situation will arise, that is the concept of FIFO and weighted average will arise only when there is opening work in progress information that, only if the work in progress information is, opening work in progress information is given in the question. So for your reference, I'm sharing the screen also. So valuation of work in progress industries where manufacturing is a continuous activity, cost incurred in such industries represents the cost of work carried on opening work in progress, closing work in progress and completed units. So mainly two methods for valuation of work in progress are followed. The first one is FIFO and second one is weighted average. Under this method, that is in FIFO method, the units completed and transferred includes the completed units of opening work in progress plus the inputs that are made during the year. When talking about the weighted average method, under this method, the cost of opening work in progress and the cost of current period are aggregated and the average cost is calculated and that average cost is used for valuation. So this is when the situation, this FIFO and weighted average will arise only when the information is given as regards opening work in progress. Now let's proceed further with the remaining part. That is, what if in case the information is given as regards normal loss, abnormal loss and abnormal gain. So very simple, guys. When talking about the first point, that is normal loss, we have to ignore this normal loss while preparing the statement of equivalent production. I repeat again, when talking about normal loss, if normal loss is given in the question, we have to ignore while preparing the statement of equivalent production. When talking about abnormal loss, information will always be given in the question as regards the percentage of completion. So you have to follow the instructions that are given in the question. When talking about abnormal gain, we have to take it always as 100% because abnormal gain is what? The saving in normal loss. So anyways, it will be adjusted against normal loss. So the point is the product cost will not be inflated or reduced because of abnormal loss or abnormal gain. So in simple terms, abnormal gain will be taken as 100% completed in respect of material also, labor also, and overheads also while preparing statement of equivalent production. So I repeat again, guys, it's a bit quick, but again, it's already 9:15 now, so I have to give 15 minutes for the queries. So the point is very simple, guys. The first point, when it is normal loss that is given in the question, then we have to ignore it while preparing the statement of equivalent production. When abnormal loss is given, we have to follow the instructions that are given in the question as regards the percentage of completion. When talking about abnormal gain, very simple, guys, you have to always take it as 100% complete. So this is all what about statement of equivalent production. I wish I could, I'll request to ICAI to keep one more session specifically for equivalent production. Still, if you're finding it difficult and if any sessions are not allocated, then better I suggest you guys to refer my previous session. I have covered each and every point in detail and in depth. I assure you guys, after viewing these sessions, the past batch sessions, you'll be thorough with the concept of equivalent production. So now, the last part, that is inter-process profit.
Vipin ji, namaste.
Namaste.
Rajkumar Adukia, Chairman, Board of Studies.
Hello, sir. Hi.
Hi. You are doing an excellent work, excellent session.
Sir, I wish I could get more time because actually this concepts require at least two sessions to cover everything in detail. But since the timings are the constant, so I can't help it, sir.
No. I will give more time. I'm just WhatsApping my detail. If you can WhatsApp me we will talk offline.
Yeah, that's better. Actually, I mean, theek hai, if the sessions are allocated, it's fine. Else, the students can refer my previous batches because it's like I'm a faculty from last 3 to 4. From last 3 to 4 batches. So I have covered process costing each and every point in detail. But still, if the students are requesting for an additional session, I'm open to it. I mean, I have no issues, sir.
Thank you, Vipin. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever it's for the benefit of
I
students,
want to
I'm
talk
open
to
to it.
you separately
Yeah. No
after
problem,
the
sir. After
session.
this session, I'll call you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, guys, when talking about inter-process profit, see, every process is treated as a separate, profit center. That is, I mean, if अब तक हमने क्या सीखा था कि see, the cost of the output of process first is transferred to the next process. So, what we were doing is that in case of a particular process, we were only considering the cost. But what if in case if every process is treated as a separate profit center? So, what we do is apart from cost, we add certain profit to a particular process cost, and accordingly that cost plus profit value is to be transferred to the next process. Again, I request you guys to refer my previous session. This question is very simple. Examiner hardly ask the question on inter-process profit, but yes, they do ask question on concept of equivalent production. So I request you guys to focus on concepts, plus apart from this, do refer my previous sessions and then try to solve each and every. Let me check the queries first. So I request you guys to please check out my previous session. Apart from this, if you find any sort of difficulty, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll personally address all your queries. I request you guys to solve each and every question in writing. As I'm repeating in the previous session also, I request you guys to first check out my lectures, then try to solve questions in writing. Again, there is no alternate of hard work. बिल्कुल भी टिकिंग या वाउचिंग या वेरिफिकेशन नहीं करना है. I mean, the solutions that are given in the study material are all correct, so no need to check it. Just write your own solution and then check the final answer. Still, if you find any sort of difficulty in process costing, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'm there to help you out. Each and every student, I'm available for all of you guys. So now, whatever the queries you have, if though for those students, it's like those who have already completed and revised everything, can please post your queries. Further, for the coming session, I'll be taking joint and byproduct, guys. So again, I request you guys, whatever the queries you have, you can start posting from 6:45 till 7 a.m. So I'll check out all your queries and then accordingly I'll plan out my session, because even in today's session also I was expecting queries from your end because it's a lengthy chapter. But still, anyways, whatever has happened has happened. But yes, for the coming session, I request you guys, whatever the queries you have relating to joint and byproduct, you can check out my previous session. And then between 6:45 to 7 o'clock, you guys can please post your queries. So now I'm open to all the queries. So whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries, guys. Yes, Sumit. Sorry. 1 second. Yes, Sumit. So if you have any doubts, you can write a mail to ICAI. Mr. Abello George, no, LIFO is not suggested, only FIFO and weighted average. Don't do any type of stunts. Examiner can deduct marks. Whatever that is given in the study material, follow these concepts only. Don't try to apply any more concepts. So better, FIFO and weighted average are the 2 points that you have to keep in mind. Try to solve the questions using FIFO and weighted average only. In the previous batch, I have covered one basic question, one, the complete question wherein what if in case opening work in progress is given, plus one advanced question where there is abnormal loss, normal loss also. So whatever the queries you have, you guys can please post your queries, waiting for your queries. Yes, Sushil, Preeti, any doubts? Mr. Unikrishnan, any doubts? Komal Prajapati, any doubts? Narendra, any doubts? Those who are over Zoom can please post your query. Again, students, I request you to please check out the lectures before attending these sessions. These sessions are for revision purpose only, not for conceptual clarity. So whatever the queries you have, you can ask the queries, but yes, come prepared with the session. I mean, I'll be taking the sessions on standard and marginal cost. I think standard costing also. So again, just don't come, I mean, with blank faces. Just do revise what I have discussed in the previous session. So whatever the queries you have, I'll try my level best to address all your queries. The students who are over Zoom can please post your queries.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Ms. Kiran, tell me.
Sir, equivalent calculation are a bit confusing.
Can you be please a bit more loud?
Sir, equivalent calculation are confusing.
Yeah, Kiran, what I suggest is you can refer my previous session. Still, if you find any sort of difficulty, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll personally attend all your queries. I know it's a bit tricky concept, but yes, have you checked my previous sessions, Kiran?
No, sir.
So just I request you to please check. See, these sessions are only for revisions and query purpose. I mean, equivalent generally take, approx 4 to 5 hours. I mean, to cover the concept of equivalent, to cover the concept of equivalent production and valuation of work in progress. Earlier, I used to take at least 3.5 to 4 hours. So it's practically not possible to cover everything in detail in half an hour. So Kiran, what you do is you just check out my previous session. Still, if you find any sort of difficulty, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll be personally attending all your queries, attending and addressing all your queries, Kiran.
Okay, sir. Give us some homework to practice this so that we can come.
No, right now, since you are not thorough with the concept, first and the foremost thing what you have to do is that check out my sessions, each and every session. I mean, there are 3 sessions on process costing in the previous 3-4 batches. So just try to understand what मैंने क्या पढ़ाया है. And thereafter, once you are thorough with the concept, then start solving illustration from study material, then practice manual. Then the practical question. And if you want some more questions to practice, you can refer practice manual and past examination papers. I assure you, after going through all these sessions, you will be thorough with the concept and you'll be able to solve all the questions. I have covered each and every point in detail, Kiran. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
Just check out, just view these sessions, and then whatever the queries you have, you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll address all your queries. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anyone else, guys? Mr. Sayanto Sen, Mr. Mallu Jadar, Rohani Jain. Okay, Preeti. Thank you so much, Mr. George. Still, I was not been able to cover it in detail. Mr. Sujay, again, I repeat, please check out my previous sessions. Still, if you have any queries, then you can write a mail to ICAI. I'll address all your queries. Yes, but let me check out with Rajkumar sir. If any additional session is allocated, then I'll try to take it in detail. Don't worry. So wish you good luck, guys. So how to approach? Again, I repeat, first refer my previous sessions. Once you are done with the concept, try to solve each and every question in writing. Once you are done with the study material, refer past practice manual. It is available over, you can just type it over Google. You will get the past practice manual. Once practice manual is done, then you can refer past examination questions, MTPs and RTPs. I assure you, once you are thorough with the concepts, then you will be able to solve any questions, every questions easily. Focus on concepts rather than memorizing the formula. That is the key in costing. So guys, thank you so much for your time and patience. I'm done with this session. God bless you guys. See you tomorrow with joint and byproduct. Again, I request you to refer my previous session. Come prepared for the next session. Whatever the queries you have, you guys can post in between 6:45 till 7 a.m. I'll address your queries accordingly and I'll plan my session accordingly. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
Manish
sir.
sir, I'm done.